We're lucky here at the magazine, we reviewed tons of different e-bikes over the years, but this is the first time we've had an opportunity to review the latest model e-bike from a brand versus the older generation. And in this video, we're going to do some back-to-back comparisons about the difference in design and innovation and ride performance of a model, say 2 years previous versus the brand new model hit the market. Of course, we're talking about the Canyon Spectral On. This is the ground up brand new model for 2023. This is the previous model. Our test rider Blake actually owns this bike, so he's ridden this thing a lot and he's been testing this for us on borrow for the last couple of months. So Blake, I guess the first thing is, at a glance, what are the biggest differences?
Absolutely. So the silhouette of the frame is much the same, but if you actually take a closer look, as you said, JT, it's ground up. The frame has been completely redesigned. We're using the same linkage design, but that's about it. Everything else is completely different. The newer model has a full carbon fiber construction, whereas the old version has an alloy rear end with the carbon fiber front.
That thing looks cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's chunky. It really matches that front triangle now as well.
100%, 100%.
Is there some sort of refinements you've noticed beyond just obviously now we've got a carbon? Canyon are obviously investing. They realize that the e-bike market's, well, a huge part of what their business is, and they're really throwing a lot of resources behind that, and this is a classic example of that. But yeah, what are some more of the refinements noticing? The same motor, but the way it's been incorporated into the frame looks a lot slicker. The front end here, the top tube, it looks a lot cleaner, the silhouette of that bike versus the old model.
Absolutely, and that's sort of the aim of the game from the redesign, I think. Like, everything meshes a lot better, like you said. So they've moved the position of the power on-off button down to the underside there, whereas the old one was on the top of the top tube. I was always a bit concerned about water ingress and that type of thing. The charge port has also moved inside the frame actually, whereas that one's sort of a little bit exposed there. Same thing. You're always a little bit on the fence. Like, I'm sure Shimano do a great job of, you know, making sure all their products are waterproof and water resistant, that type of thing. But in the back of my mind, it's always there. Once again, with the carbon fiber rear end, it's just more sleek. It's a lot sleeker. Like, obviously they've got a beautiful matte black paint job on this bike, which is, you know, making that look a bit more sleeker as it is. But just, there's no wells, all the lines just line up really well. Perfect.
Now, I guess the thing that a lot of our viewers are probably wondering at this point, we've talked about some of the differences, some of the similarities in the crossover that a couple of years make. But I guess the thing that really matters is how different does it ride? Does that couple more years of lessons learned that we've sort of been talking about that Canyon done translate to on the trail? Is this a better performing bike that it's a couple of years newer?
So I think the biggest performance gains are through actually how quiet the bike is. So even when that thing was new, I gave it a little bit of a rebuild out of the box, these types of things. And it wasn't necessarily because there was anything wrong. It's just the way that the motor sort of made noise, echoed through the frame a little bit, these types of things. So, like, not that it's a loud motor, but just the way that, yeah, the way that the shape of the tubes on the inside, that type of thing. I feel like that is a big lesson learnt. Now, you probably wouldn't believe me seeing how big this down tube is to accommodate what we're going to touch on shortly with the new batteries. But there's just no resonance through the motor. Even like trail noise resonating through the frame is just almost non-existent in the new version compared to the old version.
And that's really interesting. The old version, when we talk about old, we're talking 2-3 years ago. Back then, brands were kind of limited to around this 700. Before that, they were limited about 500 watt hours. Blake touched on a really good point. Now, the 2023 model of the Spectral On features a whopping 900 watt hours.
This bike's fitted with a 900 watt hour battery. I haven't been able to drain it in one ride yet. We've been trying, and to be honest, like, I didn't think it was gonna, you know, you're talking about another couple 100 watt hours compared to, you know, other bikes out there, but that big 900 is just, it's a game changer. Like, there's not really that much more weight either. Like, we're not talking, you know, massive amounts of weight gained, but you can also fit this bike with a 720 watt hour battery, which is gonna obviously save a little bit of weight. It's going to bring the center of gravity down a little bit because the battery itself isn't going as far up the down tube there. So, you know, pros and cons depending on what you're using the bike for. Do you actually need 900 or is 720 going to suffice?
Plenty of options, but the reality is we didn't get those kind of custom, or you couldn't tick that box a couple of years ago when this Spectral came out. Now, so it's really showing just how fast the technology, the accessibility of this new tech is becoming for us, regular consumers, you guys at home. So there you go, that's a snapshot of some of the things that are changing in the e-bike world from generation model to generation model year. Who knows what the future holds? We're hearing a lot about battery cell technologies, wet batteries, things like that. So plenty to keep your eyes and ears on. And of course, the place to keep your eyes on is our channel. If you like it, make sure you give us a subscribe, hit a comment below if there's anything else you'd like to know.